First contact and subjugation. The day the Zarkonian ships appeared in Earth's sky was supposed to be humanity's greatest triumph. For centuries we had gazed at the stars, wondering if we were alone in the universe. Now we had our answer. At first, the aliens came in peace. Their sleek, crystalline ships hovered above major cities, a testament to their advanced technology. World leaders scrambled to organize a unified response, and within days, a global coalition formed to represent Earth in these historic negotiations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a brilliant xenolinguist, led the team tasked with establishing communication. Her work was nothing short of miraculous. Within weeks, she had deciphered the basics of the Zarkonian language, allowing for rudimentary dialogue. The Zarkonians, tall, slender beings with iridescent skin and multifaceted eyes, initially seemed benevolent. They spoke of cultural exchange, technological advancement, and a galactic community that Earth could join. Humanity was ecstatic, ready to take its place among the stars. But as the days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, the true nature of the Zarkonians began to show. They grew impatient with humanity's pace of advancement, dismissive of our achievements, and increasingly condescending in their interactions. Captain James Harper, a decorated military officer assigned to the diplomatic team, was the first to voice his concerns. "They're not here as friends," he warned during a closed-door meeting. "They're assessing us, and I don't think we're measuring up to their standards." His words proved prophetic. 6 months after first contact, the Zarkonians dropped their benevolent facade. In a broadcast that reached every corner of the globe, their leader, High Commander Zixferal, declared Earth a protectorate of the Zarkonian Empire. "Your species shows potential," Zixferal announced, his translucent face flickering on screens worldwide. "But you are primitive, barely more than clever animals. For your own good, and the good of the galaxy, we will guide your development." The subjugation of Earth was swift and brutal. Zarkonian weapons far outclassed anything in human arsenals. Major military installations were vaporized in minutes. Governments toppled, replaced by Zarkonian overseers and their human collaborators. Resistance was futile, but it formed nonetheless. In the shadows of ruined cities and the depths of remote wilderness, those unwilling to accept alien rule began to gather. Dr. Rodriguez, disillusioned and angry at how her work had been used against humanity, became a key figure in this underground movement. Captain Harper, having narrowly escaped the destruction of military command centers, brought his tactical expertise to the resistance. Together, they began to formulate a plan not just for survival, but for eventual liberation. As the Zarkonians reshaped human society to fit their ideals, they remained oblivious to the spark of defiance they had ignited. They saw humans as primitive, yes, but also as malleable, easily controlled. It would prove to be their greatest miscalculation. In hidden bunkers and secret meetings, the resistance grew. They studied Zarkonian technology, intercepted communications, and began to understand their oppressors. More importantly, they started to see weaknesses in the seemingly invincible alien empire. 1 year after the conquest of Earth, Dr. Rodriguez made a breakthrough. Analyzing Zarkonian historical records, she discovered mentions of another species, one that had apparently challenged the empire eons ago. The Zarkonians referred to them as the precursors, and the records hinted at powerful technology that had been lost to time. "This could be our key," Elena told James during a clandestine meeting. "If we can find this precursor technology, we might have a chance against the Zarkonians." James nodded, his eyes glinting with determination. "It's a long shot, but it's more than we had yesterday. We need to get off-world, start searching." As they began to plan their next moves, neither Elena nor James could have imagined the journey that lay ahead. The path to freedom would take them across the stars, challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe, and ultimately redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. The Zarkonians had called humans primitive. Soon, they would learn just how wrong they were. The hidden potential. 2 years into Earth's occupation, The human resistance had evolved from a scattered collection of angry survivors into a well-organized, if under-equipped, force. Operating in cells across the globe, they had begun to make small but significant strikes against Zirconian rule. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Captain James Harper had become the de facto leaders of this global movement. Their complementary skills, Elena's brilliant mind and James' strategic acumen, had proven invaluable in keeping the resistance one step ahead of their alien oppressors. Their greatest victory came not through combat, but through cunning. A team of resistance hackers, led by a former Silicon Valley prodigy named Zora Chen, managed to infiltrate the Zirconian data networks. The wealth of information they uncovered was staggering, but one piece of data stood out above all others. They'd found something, Elena announced to the Resistance Council, her eyes alight with excitement. The Zirconians have discovered ruins on a planet in the Arcturus system. Ruins they believe are of precursor origin. James leaned forward, his brow furrowed. And they haven't moved on this yet. Elena shook her head. They're treating it with extreme caution. Apparently, the last time they investigated precursor tech, it didn't end well for them. The implications were clear. This could be the opportunity they had been waiting for. But how to seize it? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Aidan O'Connor, a geneticist who had been working on understanding Zirconian biology, proposed a daring plan. "We can't beat them with brute force," Aidan explained, his Irish lilt carrying a note of mischief. "But what if we could become them?" His team had developed a gene therapy that could temporarily alter human physiology to mimic Zirconian appearance. It was risky, experimental, and their only shot at infiltrating the Zirconian expedition to the ruins. Weeks of preparation followed. A team was assembled. Elena for her linguistic skills, James for tactical leadership, Zara for her tech expertise, and Aidan himself to monitor the genetic modifications. 4 others, each specialists in their fields, rounded out the group. The plan was audacious. They would pose as a Zirconian scientific team, commandeer a ship, and make for the Arcturus system. If they succeeded, they might find the key to humanity's liberation. If they failed, Earth would lose some of its brightest minds, and with them, perhaps its last hope. The day of the mission arrived. As the gene therapy took effect, Elena watched her skin turn iridescent, felt her bones elongate. The sensation was disconcerting, but the sight of her transformed teammates was even more so. "Well," James quipped, his voice oddly melodious through his new vocal cords, "I guess we're all in this together now." Their insertion into the Zirconian facility was flawless. Zara's hacked credentials held up under scrutiny, and soon they were aboard a sleek Zirconian scout ship, breaking atmosphere and setting course for Arcturus. The journey took weeks, during which the team honed their disguises and prepared for whatever they might find. Elena spent hours poring over the fragments of precursor language they had gleaned from Zirconian records, hoping it would be enough. As they approached the planet, a rust-red world that seemed to glare at them like a baleful eye, tension mounted. They were about to attempt something no human had ever done. Set foot on a truly alien world. The ruins sprawled across a vast plateau, a city of impossible geometries and materials that seemed to drink in light. As the team began their exploration, they quickly realized that the Zirconian data had only hinted at the true scale of the discovery. "This place," Elena breathed, running a hand along symbols etched into a wall of what seemed to be solid light. "It's not just a city. It's a library. A record of the precursor's entire civilization." But it was Zora who made the most startling discovery. In a chamber deep beneath the surface, they found a device humming with latent energy. As Zora approached it, the device sprang to life, holographic displays filling the air around them. "It's some kind of repository," Zora explained, her fingers dancing through the displays. "But it's not just data. There's patterns here. Instructions." James stepped closer, his tactical mind already racing. "Instructions for what?" Zara's eyes widened as understanding dawned. For everything. Weapons, shields, faster than light travel. But that's not all. This is incredible. It's not just technology. It's a philosophy, a way of understanding the universe that's light years beyond anything we've ever imagined. As the team worked to download and decrypt as much of the repository as they could, Alina made another discovery. Hidden among the technical schematics and scientific theories was a historical record, one that shed light on the precursor's fate. They didn't die out, she realized, her voice hushed with awe. They evolved, transcended physical form, and they left all this behind as a test. James caught on quickly. A test to see which species would be worthy of following in their footsteps. The implications were staggering. The Zarkonians, for all their supposed superiority, had failed this test. Their conquest of other species, their belief in their own supremacy, had blinded them to the true nature of the precursor's legacy. But humanity, in its struggle against oppression, in its unyielding spirit and adaptability, had inadvertently proven itself worthy. As the team prepared to return to Earth, their ship laden with knowledge that could change the course of history, a new sense of purpose filled them. They had sought a weapon to defeat the Zarkonians, but they had found something far greater, a blueprint for humanity's ascension. The Zarkonians had dismissed humans as primitive. Soon, they would learn that humanity's potential was limitless. The true test was just beginning. The Great Deception. The return to Earth was fraught with tension. The team knew that the knowledge they carried could turn the tide against the Zarkonians, but only if they could distribute it without alerting their oppressors. As their ship slipped into Earth's atmosphere under the cover of a manufactured sensor glitch, a plan began to form. "We can't just hand this tech over to the Resistance," James argued during a strategy session. "The Zarkonians would notice the moment we started using it. We need to be smarter." Alina nodded, her mind racing. "We need to use their own arrogance against them. Make them think that humans are advancing along the lines they expect." Zara, who had spent the journey back immersed in the precursor data, spoke up. "What if we did both? Use some of this knowledge to make advancements that seem natural to the Zarkonians, while secretly preparing for a bigger move." And so began what would later be known as the Great Deception. The team split up, each taking on a crucial role in the audacious plan. James and a portion of the resistance forces allowed themselves to be discovered by the Zarkonians. But instead of being met with execution, they were surprised to find themselves brought before High Commander Zixferal himself. "You've led quite the insurgency, Captain Harper," Zixferal said, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with what might have been respect. "It seems we may have underestimated your species' capacity for tactical thinking." James, steeling himself, took a calculated risk. "We've learned much from observing your people, High Commander. Perhaps it's time for a reassessment of our relationship." To the surprise of many Zarkonians, Zixferal agreed. James and his team were placed into a rehabilitation program, ostensibly to integrate them into Zarkonian society. In reality, it was the first step in infiltrating the highest levels of the alien empire. Meanwhile, Alina and Aiden focused on the scientific front. Using a fraction of the precursor knowledge, they began introducing innovations that seemed to be logical progressions of human technology. Improved energy sources, more efficient food production, advancements in medicine. Each carefully calculated to impress the Zarkonians without raising suspicion. "Look at how quickly they're adapting our basic teachings," one Zarkonian scientist remarked. "Perhaps we judged them too hastily." Zara's role was perhaps the most crucial and dangerous. While the others worked to gain the Zarkonians' trust, she led a team of Earth's best programmers in secretly upgrading the planet's information networks. Buried beneath layers of code, a quantum communication system slowly took shape, allowing the Resistance to coordinate on a global scale without detection. Months turned into years. Slowly but surely, humanity began to rise through the ranks of Zarkonian society. James, his tactical brilliance now recognized, became an advisor to Zarkonian military leaders. Alina's linguistic skills made her invaluable in diplomatic circles. Even Aiden found himself collaborating with Zarkonian geneticists on projects to improve human biology. But all of this was a carefully constructed facade. In hidden labs and secret meetings, the true work continued. The precursor knowledge was disseminated in bits and pieces to trusted individuals across the globe. Weapons were developed, defenses prepared, and plans laid for the day when humanity would reveal its true strength. Perhaps the most significant development came from an unexpected source. As humans and Zarkonians worked more closely together, a younger generation of aliens began to question the Empire's policies. Ideas of equality and cooperation, long suppressed in Zarkonian society, began to take root. Lixera, a young Zarkonian diplomat and the daughter of a high-ranking official, became particularly close to Alina. Their conversations, ostensibly about cultural exchange, often veered into philosophical territory. "I've been studying your species' history," Lixera confided one day. "The way you've overcome your own divisions, the progress you've made despite setbacks. It's admirable. Sometimes I wonder if we Zarkonians haven't become stagnant in our certainty of our own superiority." Alina treaded carefully, sensing an opportunity. Every species has its strengths. Perhaps the greatest wisdom lies in recognizing what we can learn from each other. These seeds of doubt, planted carefully and nurtured over time, would prove crucial in the days to come. As the 5th anniversary of Earth's occupation approached, tensions within the Zarkonian Empire were reaching a breaking point. Humanity's rapid progress had begun to unsettle the more conservative elements of Zarkonian society. Whispers of a human problem began to circulate in the highest levels of the Empire. James, now a trusted military advisor, caught wind of a revolution ignited. The whispers James had overheard in the Zarkonian High Command were worse than anyone had feared. A faction of hardliners, led by the ruthless General Vraxkon, was pushing for a final solution to the human question. Their plan was chilling in its simplicity: a simultaneous strike on all major human population centers, followed by the transformation of Earth into a mining colony staffed by a small genetically engineered workforce. "We have days, maybe hours, before they make their move," James warned the resistance leadership during an emergency quantum-encrypted conference. "It's time. We need to activate the Nexus protocol." Alina's holographic image flickered as she nodded grimly. "Agreed. Zara, is the network ready?" Zara's fingers danced across an invisible keyboard as she ran final diagnostics. "As ready as it'll ever be. On your command, we can activate every piece of precursor tech we've seeded across the planet." Aiden, looking haggard from weeks of non-stop work, spoke up. "The bioenhancement program is ready too. Every resistance cell has the means to unlock the genetic potential we discovered in the precursor data." James took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. "Then we have no choice. Initiate the Nexus protocol. And may whatever gods are out there have mercy on us all." Across the globe, hidden precursor devices hummed to life. In secret bunkers and underground labs, resistance fighters injected themselves with serums that began to rewrite their DNA, unlocking abilities that blurred the line between biology and technology. The first strike came not from the Zarkonians, but from humanity. As General Vraxkon prepared to give the order for Earth's annihilation, his flagship erupted in a series of explosions. James, his cover finally blown, led a team of enhanced humans in a daring assault on the Zarkonian command structure. "This is impossible," Vraxkon snarled as he watched humans moving with impossible speed, shrugging off energy weapon blasts as if they were mere annoyances. "What are you?" James, his eyes glowing with an inner fire, allowed himself a grim smile. "We're humanity unchained, General. And your reign ends today." On Earth, the scene was repeated in every major city. Zarkonian strongholds fell one by one as resistance cells, armed with weapons reverse-engineered from precursor designs, launched coordinated attacks. The aliens found their supposedly impenetrable defenses useless against humans who could phase through solid matter or manipulate energy fields with a thought. Elena, meanwhile, focused on a different kind of battle. Broadcasting on all frequencies, she reached out to those Zarkonians who had begun to question their empire's methods. "People of the Zarkonian Empire," she began, her voice calm but filled with conviction. "For too long, your leaders have told you that strength comes from dominance, that progress can only be achieved through the subjugation of others. Today, we show you another way." As she spoke, displays across Earth and on Zarkonian ships showed scenes not just of combat, but of humans using their newfound abilities to heal, to create, to solve problems that had plagued both species for generations. This power, this knowledge, it was never meant to belong to one species alone, Elena continued. The precursors left it for all of us, a challenge to grow beyond our limitations and our prejudices. We invite you to join us in building a future where all sentient beings can reach their full potential. Her words, combined with the obvious futility of continued resistance, had an impact. Across the Zarkonian fleet, ships began to stand down. On Earth, alien soldiers laid down their weapons, realizing that the humans they had dismissed as primitive now wielded power beyond their comprehension. But the war was far from over. A significant portion of the Zarkonian military remained loyal to the old guard. As news of the uprising spread, reinforcements began to pour in from nearby star systems. Her words, combined with the obvious futility of continued resistance, had an impact. Across the Zarkonian fleet, ships began to stand down. On Earth, alien soldiers laid down their weapons, realizing that the humans they had dismissed as primitive now wielded power beyond their comprehension. But the war was far from over. A significant portion of the Zarkonian military remained loyal to the old guard. As news of the uprising spread, reinforcements began to pour in from nearby star systems. James, now coordinating the global defense from a captured Zarkonian command center, gritted his teeth as he watched the enemy fleet grow. They're really going to try to glass the entire planet rather than admit defeat. Zara, her consciousness now seamlessly integrated with Earth's defense networks, spoke up. "Maybe not. Take a look at this." A new group of ships had appeared on the edge of the system. For a moment, James feared it was more Zarkonian reinforcements, but then he recognized the energy signatures. "Those are ships from the Arcturus system," he breathed. But how? The answer came in the form of a transmission from the lead vessel. Lix-Era's face appeared on the main screen, her expression a mix of determination and hope. "Elena, James, everyone. I hope we're not too late," she said. "When I realized what my father and the others were planning, I knew I had to act. These ships are crewed by Zarkonians who believe in your vision of the future. We're here to help." With this unexpected reinforcement, the tide of the battle began to turn. The rebel Zarkonian ships, piloted by crews intimately familiar with their own military's tactics, proved invaluable in countering the incoming assault. As the fighting raged in orbit and across the surface of Earth, something remarkable began to happen. Humans and Zarkonians found themselves fighting side by side, their unique abilities complementing each other in ways neither species had imagined possible. In the skies over what had once been New York, a Zarkonian pilot found her ship failing, its systems overloaded by a barrage of enemy fire. As she prepared for the end, her ship was suddenly enveloped in a shimmering energy field. Looking down, she saw a human standing on a rooftop, hands raised, projecting a barrier that shouldered the blows meant for her. In the ruins of Tokyo, a group of human resistance fighters found themselves cornered by loyalist Zarkonian forces. Just as all seemed lost, the ground beneath the enemy troops liquefied, swallowing them up to their necks. A Zarkonian geomancer, inspired by Elena's words, had chosen to switch sides in the heat of battle. These scenes played out across the globe, each act of cooperation, each moment of shared struggle, forging bonds that would form the foundation of a new galactic society. As the sun set on the first day of the revolution, humanity and their Zarkonian allies had achieved what few would have thought possible mere hours before. Earth was free, and the Zarkonian Empire's unquestioned dominance of the galaxy was shattered. But the fighting was far from over. Loyalist forces still controlled vast swathes of the galaxy, and they would not give up their power without a fierce struggle. As James and Alina gathered their forces to plan the next phase of the war, they knew that the true test of their vision for the future was just beginning. The revolution had been ignited. Now it would have to spread to the stars. A new galactic order. The months following Earth's liberation were a whirlwind of activity. As the last pockets of Zarkonian resistance on the planet were mopped up, humanity and their alien allies turned their attention to the broader galactic stage. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Fleets of hybridized human Zarkonian ships, powered by precursor technology and crewed by beings who were rapidly evolving beyond their original forms, clashed with the still formidable forces of the old Zarkonian Empire. James found himself in command of this unprecedented armada. His tactical genius, combined with the reality-warping abilities of his enhanced crews, led to victories that would have been impossible just a year earlier. "We're not just fighting a war," he often reminded his officers. "We're fighting for an idea. Every world we liberate, every mind we open to new possibilities, that's a victory that can never be undone." Alina, meanwhile, had become the diplomatic face of the revolution. She traveled from system to system, speaking to subjugated species and disillusioned Zarkonians alike. Her words, backed by demonstrations of the incredible advancements Earth had made, sparked uprisings and defections across the Empire. One of her most significant triumphs came on the Zarkonian homeworld itself. Standing before the Imperial Senate, Alina made her case not just for peace, but for a fundamental reimagining of galactic society. For too long, the galaxy has been shackled by the idea that progress comes through domination, she argued, her words broadcast to trillions across countless worlds. But look at what we've achieved through cooperation, through the free exchange of ideas and abilities. We stand on the brink of a transformation that could elevate all sentient beings to heights we've only dreamed of. Her speech, combined with the undeniable evidence of Earth's advancements, caused a seismic shift in Zarkonian politics. The old guard found themselves increasingly isolated as younger generations, inspired by the human-led revolution, pushed for reform. But the true turning point of the war came not through military might or persuasive words, but through a discovery that shook the foundations of galactic civilization. Zara, her consciousness now expanded to encompass vast networks of precursor technology, made a breakthrough in deciphering the deepest layers of the Arcturus repository. What she found left her awestruck. "It's not just a library or a test," she explained to the revolution's leadership, her holographic form flickering with barely contained excitement. "It's a key. The precursors, they didn't just transcend physical form. They found a way to ascend to a higher plane of existence, and they left behind the means for other species to follow." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about winning a war or reshaping galactic politics. It was an opportunity for all sentient life to evolve beyond its current limitations. As news of this discovery spread, the conflict that had engulfed the galaxy began to lose its meaning. More and more Zarkonians laid down their arms, realizing that the promise of ascension far outweighed any ephemeral political gains. The final battle, when it came, was more of a ceremonial surrender than a true conflict. On a space station orbiting a neutral world, the last holdouts of the old Zarkonian regime formally ceded power to a new galactic council, one that represented not just humans and Zarkonians, but every sentient species in known space. As James watched the proceedings, he felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" he asked Alina, who stood beside him. She shook her head, a smile playing at her lips. "James, this is just the beginning. In the years that followed, the galaxy underwent a transformation unlike anything in its history. The boundaries between species began to blur as individuals experimented with genetic enhancements and technological augmentations. Worlds that had once been bitter enemies now collaborated on projects of mind-bending scope, reshaping planets and harnessing the energy of stars. Humanity, far from being relegated to a footnote in galactic history, found itself at the forefront of this new age. The adaptability and creativity that had allowed them to overthrow their oppressors now drove them to explore the furthest reaches of science and philosophy. But with these advancements came new challenges. As beings approached the threshold of ascension, questions of ethics and identity that had once seemed academic became pressingly relevant. What did it mean to be human, or Zarkonian, or any species, when one could rewrite their own genetic code on a whim? What responsibilities did ascended beings have to those who chose to remain in physical form? Elena, James, Zara, and countless others who had been at the forefront of the revolution now found themselves grappling with these existential quandaries. They had won the war and reshaped the galaxy, but the true test of their vision was still to come. As the first groups of beings prepared to follow in the precursor's footsteps and ascend to a higher plane of existence, Elena couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. "We were dismissed as primitives," she mused, watching as the first volunteers stepped into the ascension chamber. "Now we stand at the threshold of becoming something beyond our wildest dreams." James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Makes you wonder, doesn't it, what the next primitives might achieve if given the chance?" As the chamber activated, bathing the volunteers in energy that defied conventional physics, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what new wonders and challenges this next phase of evolution would bring. The beings once known as humans and Zarkonians, and countless other species besides, had reshaped the galaxy. Now they prepared to reshape the very nature of existence itself. It was a future filled with infinite possibilities, born from the indomitable spirit of those who had once been dismissed as savages. The story of their ascension was ending, but in the grand tapestry of the cosmos, it was merely the opening chapter of a far greater tale.